We ended up closing a 1 crore 34 lakhs a year client, and they're from Southeast Asia, unlike most of our other clients based in the United States. We convinced them from initially just wanting distribution to selling them the whole stack, which involves production and not just short form content. There was no Arthur on this call, but Vihan and I still held frame what I believe to be very properly, and that's why most of this sales call is going to be unfiltered and uncut so that you can gain as much value as possible by staying until the end. So let's get into it. We're going to be going over the first email that we ever sent all the way until they booked a call, followed by the content audit that we made for them, which convinced them to book this call in the first place. And then after we've covered these 2 points, I will talk about how we found the client in the first place, right? So before we send the email, how do we end up finding them? After that, I will be with you reviewing the entire sales call that we had, along with the back and forth on the actual close. So there were a lot of emails sent. They didn't want to do it, then they wanted to do it. So I'll also be showing you those email threads. Okay, so on to the first email. The subject line is going to be super important because this is what they see before they choose to open an email. So over here, the first word is basically the episode that they had, right? The guest's name of the episode, that's what we put as the first word. So their guest name's episode deserves more than XYZ views. Now, why does this work? Because it makes the host feel good. We're telling them that the conversation or the podcast episode that they had deserves more than the amount of views that it's getting on YouTube right now, right? So this is also a subject line that fits in very naturally. It doesn't seem like we're trying to sell them. We could also genuinely just be a fan that's reaching out with such a subject line, which is super important. You cannot try to sell on a subject line. The subject is meant to fit in naturally. Okay. Now, after that, I basically take the first name of the person I'm reaching out to over here. So this is the client that we ended up closing. Name, comma. Over here, I write I work with podcasts like, and over here, I take our clients' names because our agency works with some of the best clients in this niche. So if I take their name, it credibilizes me and gives them a reason to read the rest of the email, and also a bit of a shock because if they recognize a name of a podcast that they listen to that I'm working with, they'll think of me as almost like an expert and will read the rest of the email, right? So it's credibility building as well as a hook in one, and more to increase distribution. The reason I use the word distribution is because it's super relevant. I feel like all the folks in our industry, which is tech and VC, recognize the word distribution and want to always increase that. Then I go on to say that the conversations on your podcast are second to none, but they deserve more views, which is flattery. Then I go on to a very clear CTA, which is, can I send you an audit on some low-hanging fruits that would help with visibility, right? Visibility being another keyword such as distribution. Be careful though to not include too many fluffy or keywords like distribution and visibility, because too many can make you seem ingenuine and full of shit. Flattery above works well because it's complimenting them. Everyone likes to hear good things about them. And then I talk about, can I send you an audit? Now, because I've built my credibility, an audit coming from people that work with podcasts that this person is listening to is very valuable. So it's a very clear CTA, and it's very easy for them to say yes to this, right? Like they just have to say, yes, Subha, send me an audit, would love it, thanks. Or no, I'm okay, thanks. The length of the email over here also matters a lot. So don't write 5 chunky paragraphs. On to the prospect's response. They responded in around 2 hours. So if we have a look, right, this was sent at 5:15 p.m. and this was sent back at 7:29. So it's basically 2 hours. And exactly what I told you around the CTA. That's very easy to say yes to. So they basically said, hey, Subha, very cool way to reach out. Sure. Send me the audit. Then I reply back in 1 day, right? Speed is very important. So we basically created an audit in 1 day. Was it even 1 day, or was this in the morning? No, it wasn't even 1 day. We sent it in 12 hours, basically, the audit, right? So I said, hey, name, sharing the custom audit here. So over here, I don't first ask them, great, do you want to book a call? I can make the audit after or some shit like that. I shared the custom audit with the links. I'm giving them a lot of upfront value. And then I'm also mentioning that, oh, I also thought I would share someone's name, right? Another client of ours name working with us. This is important because I'm also sharing a testimonial video of a podcast this person likely knows and listens to. So value plus reinforce credibility before asking for my CTA, right? Before asking him for something, which is, let me know after all of this if you would like to jump on a quick call. One mistake I see you guys often making is wanting a call from the first email itself. No, try to provide a lead magnet which gives them free value. And then if they bite the hook, right? If they bite the easy CTA, later, if you give them more value, maybe then you should ask for a call, because oftentimes the prospects you're trying to sell to are very time sensitive. If people have money, if they are rich, they don't have time. They don't want to give you that time. So who are you? You need to be credible and you need to provide value in order for you to be able to book a call with them. And now let's go and actually see the custom audit, right? Because you're wondering like, okay, well, what value did you give? Here's what the content audit looked like. Hanan is the one that came up with this. And what we do is we have a very similar content audit format. Okay. We always talk about distribution, editing, trailers, and we have building blocks in our audit, because we know everything that a podcast can essentially cover or improve at, right? So imagine over here, you have things from A to J. We have things from A to, let's say, X, A to X. So we have a lot of building blocks. Now we look at the podcast and we choose which building blocks are most relevant in order of what magnitude of change or improvement they can cause to the podcast. So basically, we have a lot of different things we can talk about in our content audits, and we try to pick and choose the most impactful ones. So in this one, we found A, which is guest distribution, being one building block, being super important. So we put that at top. Then we put things like podcast editing. And over here, you can see that there's a typo. We put AA twice. That's what happens when you optimize for speed instead of making things perfect. So speed, not perfection. It's fine if there are like typos and, try not to have them, but it's not the end of the world. So guest distribution being the first pillar, right? Now, obviously, I cannot show you all of these. It would make this video too long, but this is what guest distribution looks like. I have blurred the images towards the right. This podcast, so their podcast name, prospects podcast name, can benefit from guests retweeting or mentioning the X handle when their episodes go live. Now, we basically tell them the problem, the solution, and then how we've done it. So Atomik, which is us, we create cheat sheets that make it simple for the guest to post on social media. This includes sharing assets with social media copy and graphics that the guest can post seamlessly. So whenever we send the final episode to the guest, we also include this little kit with captions written in the guest's voice for them to repost, right? So it's like super easy for them to just copy, paste, and post, right? Here's an example of someone's LinkedIn handle who appeared on our client's podcast. So we basically show them instances of our current clients' guests reposting moments from their podcast. Then trailers, right? Trailers, which is point C. We've written B, but it's point C here. Some episodes of podcast name begin with trailers that last up to 90 seconds. We recommend keeping trailers 56 seconds or less because that's what we found work best. So we're always showing them expertise and giving them strong recommendations, and also telling them that now that the podcast is video first, we can probably do this. Below are some screen grabs of trailers on some other work that we've done. So it's always highlighting a problem and then highlighting how we fixed it in our work, right? So a lot of this is actually templatized, and we end up using the same building blocks from content audits from different audits that we've created over time. And these are often 11-12 pages long, but it takes us less than 30 minutes to make. Now, how we found this client. So that's the content audit. We sent it, and the prospect even on the sales call talks about the audit a little bit. So definitely wait to hear their thoughts over there. Very smart guy. Now, how do we end up finding this prospect in the same place? You see this subject line that I spoke about earlier? The same guest, which is the first word over here, the same guest appeared on another podcast for which we had made an audit earlier. I hope you're following me. I hope you're understanding the order of sequences I'm telling you. This guest appeared on another podcast who we had made an audit for. And then we regularly YouTube search guest names, right? So now that this guest has appeared in a podcast that we're working on, we will obviously search their names up to see which new podcast they appear on, because podcast guests often appear on more podcasts. It's unlikely that this is the first and last podcast that they're ever going to do. Now, when we do end up searching their name again, we find podcasts that they've recently been on because you can sort on YouTube by recently uploaded. And we have these searches that are going on from time to time. We have a person that keeps doing these searches in the background to find more and more prospects that are even new with their podcasts. Plus willingness, time in the game, plus dog. Literally, you've got to be hungry enough to be finding channels which are getting 200 views on YouTube, right? So I would say that is the combination of how we found this client. Now we're on to the most exciting part, which is the sales call. Vihan led this one, and let's have a look at what happened.
Will join us very shortly, but I am the project lead for our AI project. So that's why he invited me as well. I know we just launched the AI series, which I'm really glad that you guys caught on so quickly because we definitely need a lot of help.
So here you can already see that the prospect is like, okay, we recently launched this new podcast series, and I'm glad you people found it so quickly because we're definitely struggling with it, which means that timing was a big part of this close, right? Sometimes you just gotta shoot as many shots as possible so you hit the one that needs it the most at that given time.
And going viral and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it's actually our first call that we're taking in Hong Kong because most of our clients are in SF in New York. So first time we're having like a Southeast Asia call, which is super exciting for us.
Great. Yeah, I think
so. Over here, I'm just trying to build some synergy, do a bit of small talk. Small talk is super important, guys. Don't jump onto the call and directly in 30 seconds talk about, oh, so let's talk about your podcast. No, you gotta first become human. And I still fucking suck at being human sometimes. So we've gotta first vibe with the person, and it's difficult to vibe with people who are much older than you or in totally different cultures and countries, right? This prospect was the first one from Hong Kong, so I'm just telling her a bit about our story, and we're like, most of our clients are based in the SF and New York, so it's the first time we're really talking to someone in your part of the world, which is Southeast Asia, which is pretty cool.
Because I was just going to say that, right? We've at Atomic, we've sort of aligned our destinies with SF time zones, and right now it's more convenient like this.
exactly.
But awesome. I think first off, super curious to learn what made you or want to reply to what was effectively
Hi, Subha. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit on the go, but I
appreciate you joining anyway.
I figured this would be one of the time slots that we can match.
Yeah, I was just asking.
So over here, we just had the other person join the call. He is a little bit late to this call, like 1 minute late. And he's basically like, I'm so glad we found a time to chat because, our Calendly is mostly open during the night, which aligns with the SF time zone and not the Hong Kong time zone. So he's basically saying, we're so glad we ended up finding a time.
I was just asking, very curious to learn what made you guys want to reply to effectively a cold email and book this call today.
Actually, I like the email that you guys wrote. It was pretty cool. I mean, I appreciate that. I have
one quick comment over here. I don't think we set frame very well. We did over the call, we maintained frame, but there's a difference between setting frame and maintaining frame. Setting frame is basically telling them what this call is going to be about, and then ensuring that you are always in control of what the conversation is steering towards, right? So first, what Vihan asked here was very accurate, which is how did you guys, what intrigued you about the first email that we sent, and basically the audit, so that you ended up booking this call, right? This is basically going to make them sell themselves. They'll basically be like, yeah, so we need more views. We saw that you guys do this, so you guys are great. It basically prompts them to talk about their main problem, and it will reveal why they are on this call. Then what we should have also mentioned is that after we talk about that, we'll talk a little bit about us. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll give you a bit more context on the company, followed by which we will see if there's some synergy for us to work together. And, we'll obviously do a little demo of what some of our work actually looks like. That's called setting frame, which we didn't do over here. And one more thing I want to quickly mention is that people who are like, high net worth individuals, they're oftentimes going to be on the move. They're going to join from their phone. They might be taking a walk and shit like that. So that's totally normal.
Dozens of them nowadays with AI generated emails, but this was somewhat up to the point, and very nice.
Right.
So I thought, okay, these guys can do good emails. Maybe they also can do great podcasts.
Good sales is a good indicator of a good service. We had a lot of iterations on the email. So it's like, okay, what do people care about most? What do people normally say when they join the calls? Oh, I saw that you guys worked with these guys. So we're like, you know what? Let's cut this off. And it was in the first line. And then we actually, offer some value as well up front. So
no, it's smart. It's smart. Basically, if you can automate this kind of stuff, it makes. But then you did. I can see you did custom, sort of templated research. But I appreciate it. Did some screenshots, so I can see there's some real input. Yeah. No.
So this is basically the client was saying, he gets a dozen cold emails a day. This one was short, to the point, and seemed legit, which is how you need to come across. I broke down the email philosophy. And then I was basically telling him, this is how we came to this email that we crafted. It took us a lot of iterations. I'm basically humanizing myself and making the sales process a little less, snake oilsy, like a little more transparent and open, like, trying to chat to him before we dive into just business.
No, look, in short, basically we decided to go more like serious with podcasts. And this, what you see is the first episode. We have another 4 already filmed. I understand you do the whole end-to-end thing in the US. We are based in Hong Kong. So we have here local crews that can film. They have studio. They can do editing. But we are looking for someone to help us with the rest of the stuff, distribution, marketing. So basically helping me on these things as of now, but it's a lot of work, and we
makes sense. I think one thing we'd be very curious to also understand is why you want to start this series back up again. I know you guys have sort of been into podcasting for a while, on and off. Why make it an AI specific series? You guys have a cadence in mind. A bit more about the workflows would also have to know.
Okay, so not the best way of framing the question. I feel like there were quite a few questions in this one question. But to recap what just happened, the prospect said that, they already have the studio covered, they have the production covered, they just need help with a little bit of the distribution. So they started off with just wanting help on the distribution piece, and watch that how as this call progresses, we ended up selling them on the whole thing. Now, Vihan decided to ask, okay, that's great. Tell us why you wanted to start this podcast in the first place. So we come to the core motivation and connect this to their main KPI, right? Is it for more sales? Is it for networking? Why even do this podcast? So again, we're making them sell to us.
Yeah. In short, due to nature of my company, we basically have access to a lot of amazing people. Hundreds of founders, VCs. I used to be a journalist back in my previous life. So it doesn't not look like, but it kind of comes natural, do all the research and understanding it, and then kind of lead the conversation. I'm not a TV journalist type of style of writing, so it's a different thing. And it's all about the content. It's about the people. We do our focus. The company is focusing on bringing people together, connecting people. So I want to tell the story of different people, and through this build awareness of what we do, as we are looking to scale ourselves beyond just being in Hong Kong and Asia.
Awesome. So sorry, you were going to say something?
No, it's. I don't have any specific we need.
This was a big mess up between us. Like, Vihan and I were in the same room, right? Over here, the prospect just broke down why they wanted to start this podcast, because of his company. They have access to hundreds of founders, VCs, investors, and this person was a journalist, so they know how to frame questions, and they basically just want to do this podcast, right? We dive deeper into why, but over here, because of the fact that Vihan and I were in the same room, for some reason he thought that I wanted to say something, and he unmuted. The problem with us is that we were both unmuting at the same time. And for that, I've actually developed a little Chrome extension so that we avoid doing that in the future. But over here, when Vihan prompted me to say something, the prospect thought that, Vihan told him, hey, were you going to say something? And we all started speaking at the same time, which is a bit messy.
We need to funnel, we need to convert. We have not yet got to this kind of things. It's not very transactional thing. It's not that we're promoting one specific call to action. It's more like we are building awareness about ourselves, building audience, and later maybe we'll see how we can utilize this.
Makes sense. That's exactly what I was going to ask. Like, what exactly is the ultimate goal? Like, are you trying to funnel more people into the community or perhaps build a personal brand? And I guess for now, as you mentioned, it's mainly just doing it for the sake of doing the podcast, having some fun with it, inviting the cool network of guests that you have and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, it's more like engaging with our network. We have this network, but
I basically mirror what he said to us back to him. What this does is usually prompts them to either confirm that, yeah, you got it right, and then add a little more context.
We don't really engage in directly, me personally, so it's the way for me to meet all these interesting people, build relationship with them, but also build relationship with the audience. By providing them with something valuable and have more like a consistent interaction over the time. I don't have yet, yes, we do a lot of things. We can invite to our event. We have all the sponsors that we can convert, but I don't have yet this very specific transactional targets for this.
Got it. So then I have to ask, why is it that you want more views, which is, I believe, what intrigued you to us in the first place?
Over here, I really thought, right, I was like, wait, so this person is telling us that, you know, they're doing the podcast just to build their network and, you know, all that. So then why does he want more views? Because that's what he came to us for.
Why do I need more views?
Yes, why would you like more help with distribution?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it sucks if you have 200 viewers. I mean, what's the point? You want to be seen serious, and that's how you can acquire better guests. You want to see the traction. Yeah, I mean, that's the metric how you can tell who is the sort of influencing podcast host or who is just doing for the friends and family.
Makes sense. I think it might be best.
One more pattern I've noticed is that whenever we unmute or say something, if you move from your desk, it's a signal of nervousness, or at least I know this for Vihan and me, right? While unmuting, if we do something like if we get up from our chair, I just know that it's because, like, you know, just slightly, I don't know. It's just a pattern that I've noticed that we should stop.
So give us a bit of an intro. So maybe you want to go first, and then we can talk a bit about what we do. More importantly, how we do it, and see if there's any synergy. Shiba, you want to go first?
Over here, I don't think I should have gone first. Vihan could have just started because he's unmuted. But yeah, and also this should have been done towards the start of the call.
So my career really started in media a while ago when short form content was just booming. I was working in an ed tech company, and we were chopping up long form clips into these short form videos and just distributing them across all social media platforms and getting like 100 million plus views every month for this one creator to drive info product sales. And I was an avid listener of podcasts myself, and I saw that my favorite tech podcasts, who also have a lot of money, don't exactly have a social media presence, right? So I found a bit of a gap over there and decided to start Atomik Growth. And since then, we've been working with a lot of VCs. Was funnily enough our first ever client, so that made things a lot easier. But then VCs and other tech companies just wanted one podcast partner end to end instead of just, you know, someone taking the short form function, or let's say that just the pre-production or production function. So we try to go as end to end as possible. And recently we've launched our own AI studio along with our own clipping network as well. So come a bit full circle over there. Vihan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. So funnily enough, my first job was working at India's largest private AMC.
On my intro, I think I can definitely make it a little quicker, a little snappier, and make it a little more braggy than what I did.
Which I shortly left to go work at a family office, which after a while can get fairly uninspiring because of the nature of work. And in that period, transition period, I sort of met Subha, and he said, dude, let's just go make podcasts for these VCs and tech companies in SF, and we'll have a blast. He definitely wasn't kidding. It's been a lot of fun. So now we're spread across 11 countries, 100% remote, over 35 people, and we make podcasts for some very cool people. And now we're going from only podcasting to becoming slowly but steadily a full-fledged media company. So we're trying to find our footing in the media wars, if you will. So,
sounds great. I mean, I like that you guys have the understanding of the tech industry, and because there's a lot of just B2B podcasts with, I don't know, the head of services and solutions who thinks that whatever is story that our guest will be amazing to hear, and then it's just that boring and it's not related to anything, and it's hard to make it out of something amazing out of this. I was just thinking back of my mind while you describing your careers and then how you get there. I also think one thing I want to add for our podcast, for me, it's not about to promote myself and put myself out everywhere and I'm like, this is and I'm with you. It's actually opposite. I didn't want it, and it took me so much effort to actually make this step and go ahead and go public with my. I don't want to be seen like we do big events. We have 30,000 people coming. I'm not often on the stage.
Can I ask why that is?
No, it's just.
So here he was talking about, he doesn't want to be in the foreground. He'd rather be in the background, and he doesn't exactly want. He's a bit hesitant on building his personal brand. So I had to interrupt him. Don't be too scared to interrupt your prospects. Obviously, don't do it too much. But if there's a burning question you have, feel free to just interrupt at the right time.
I don't see myself as the influencer.
Yeah. I guess one of the KPIs for us then will not be how much LinkedIn is growing, but rather how many guests end up reposting the clips.
Yeah, it's more like people still, the reason
So he was basically saying that, he wants to make his guests feel valued, etc. So I'm like, okay, then we don't got to track how much your LinkedIn's growing, but rather how many guests are happy with the podcast and how many times they end up resharing it and talking about the pod.
There, not just filming them answering the questions to the camera is okay. I understand people still tend to listen, subscribe to someone. They don't come if they only come in for the guest, then they leave. After that, they're not staying. They just one off. But if they stay, then they need to subscribe for certain personalities, a certain person, like some certain host. And yes, so I have to become like this host. It's not that my initial motivation or idea. That I want to promote myself. I don't want to promote myself.
Yeah, makes sense. So what I'm seeing right now is I feel like there's multiple goals with this podcast, yet there are no defined goals yet. Which is always great, right? Because it gives more room to experiment with, for us at least. So I'd love to learn a bit more about the workflows around the podcast right now, because this is a relatively new series. I think we understand why you guys want to do this. Just wanted to learn how you guys are doing this. I know you mentioned filming crews. So let's say the recording happens. What happens after that, all the way to release?
So great question by Vihan, and he also brings this back in our frame. This is what I mean by maintaining frame. So the conversation was steering a bit, wasn't going anywhere. Vihan brought it into basically talking about the workflow so that we can see where we can interject. And he also, before that, mentioned that there are several goals, yet, I don't think they've formed it into a concrete goal yet, which is very well worded in my opinion.
Can maybe keep the concept.
Sure. Yeah. So currently we have a podcast team that comes in, films it, and then they will try to edit 3 versions for us. And yeah, I think just because they are local Chinese, it's a little hard for them to really grasp what the biggest highlights are. And of course, with the language kind of differentiation, the cuts aren't that good or as good as it could be. And then otherwise, we're just basically using AI tools. Some of the chapters that you see that we section off, I write the summary, the title with help of AI, of course. So a lot of it is very manual and only, and because we have a smaller team, and so it's just the whole host and I do everything in the back end. But yeah, we're looking for someone. I think for us, the quality of the podcast is good. It's just really about social media content, like short clips. I know that's extremely important, especially nowadays. And yeah, we just, I know it's a very time consuming thing and we just don't have time to work on those things, even though they are very important.
Yeah, so and in terms of the acquiring guests, so we have access to a lot of people, like I said. So
yeah, she was reiterating the fact that they have a local Chinese crew. They don't exactly understand the content well. Hence, distribution is lacking. Distribution basically is social media. And that is why they're seeking for our help.
It's relatively not so difficult for us to get them. We have already 5 more film in the backlog. Next podcast, we actually done the one that the film was in Dubai.
Yeah, and then looking forward as well, we do want to launch a podcast video every week. So we have 4 or 5 videos that have been cut already. So it's just a matter of fact of like getting all of the materials ready to launch it even better.
And how many hours are you guys spending working on the podcast right now?
Like,
because I know there's so much that goes on in the back end. Right?
Yeah, I think like 1 hour, 2 hours I need to prepare for the podcast, do some research, read and that things, and then podcast its own, be 2 hours. That what you've seen on LinkedIn, I'm not sure if you've seen the LinkedIn one. So there was like a cut, like a teaser. I basically had to spend like 4 hours to listen to the full thing while I was on the flight. Yeah, I would wish someone else would do it.
And are you doing the research yourself, like all the questions?
This was, I don't always like this question where we ask how many hours are you putting in, because oftentimes they're like, what's the point of this question, right? But in this case, it ended up working because, you know, they both are spending a lot of time on the podcast and, you know, the prospect wishes that they didn't have to do that, which works into our, you know, our call very well.
Yeah, mostly I can do this because I need to be able to do it because then I can understand better context.
I think one more question before I dive into what it is exactly that we do is how much is the total cost incurred for fully producing an episode right now?
This is very helpful for us to know because we try to get ballpark estimates of how much they're spending on the podcast right now. This helps us anchor our own pricing later on. But I think the way that this can be said is super simple, right? I'm like, so instead of saying it the way we hunted with a bit of hesitation, the way you ask it is, so I know that you guys are spending a bunch of time on this podcast and I wonder how much the costs proportionally scale to that. So if you could give us a ballpark estimate of how much the cost is for each episode that you're producing, that would also be very helpful before we move into our demo. So that's another way of saying this with a little more confidence and a little more panache.
Yeah, we need to look up the production, like the booking cost, but I think it's more about the time that we spend that we
we spend maybe a couple of days. No, maybe a day of work or 1.5 days of both of us.
I think what I'll do now is quickly walk you through, like I said, what we do for one of our most recent partnerships. So you can see what are the kind of services that we provide. I have way too many tabs open. Please don't mind. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah,
I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. Too many tabs open. This humanizes you in a way because a lot of times, you know, a lot of people have tabs open. So it's all right.
We can see the screen. Thank you.
Great. So this is your typical Bay Area incubator. So essentially, they were averaging about, as you can see, they had one good episode with Mark Zuckerberg. And then after that, they were averaging 1,200 to 2,000 views an episode for a while. And, you know, they had great guests, right? That was the one advantage. They had the CEO, they had course. And essentially the bottleneck again was distribution. And obviously the quality of production could use some work when you have this caliber of guests.
I feel like this could have been a lot shorter. I like that Vihan hit the main point over here, which was distribution. There were 2 points these guys wanted: distribution and too much time spent. I feel like we hit one nail. However, the second nail, which is time spent, we could have also tried to hit that and being like, this client of ours that we're showing, screen sharing, also spent way too much time on the podcast themselves and the internal team, where they had a lot of other shit to do as well, right? And by the way, I'm not wearing nail polish or anything. It's just my finger, right? I stubbed it so hard on the door that it's now blue. So don't do that.
So we start partnering with them from this episode with the CEO. And we had an immediate jump, like an immediate 5 or 6x jump in the median number of viewers, fully organic. Obviously, we did some great other episodes with the like. And the advantage with them really was that they had great guests, which full disclosure makes our job very, very easy. Makes it easier, significantly easier. And I think one of the main catalysts here was that we added an animated trailer at the start. So we have a full animation division internally in the company, which creates these intros and pre-places them before the episode starts. So the goal with these intros, I'll just play it for a second.
I can hear the sound, but I get the idea.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Maybe screen share with audio.
Yeah. So the goal behind doing this is to extend the viewer attention in the first 30 seconds, because that tends to be an important metric for YouTube to determine how much they want to push that video organically. And the trailer did quite well. We again posted this trailer separately on LinkedIn and X for the GP, and was kind enough to comment on it twice. And then it also got picked up by a whole bunch of media publications that just amplified the reach. So apart from the episode itself, we obviously do all the copies, the thumbnails, which is all optimized for SEO. And then we also do newsletters. This is a newsletter for a separate podcast that we made for you founded. Now it typically takes anywhere from 120 to 180 days to get 2,000 newsletter subscribers. We got to about 7,000 in the first 2 weeks. And then apart from that, we do a bunch of short form content, which is how we started with so it's always been our sort of forte. Then aside from that, we do a couple of things on the RSS feed. For example, I noticed that you guys aren't uploading video to Spotify, which is now a functionality that you do have available, which we've actually seen really help with our clients. Another thing that's been super important for us is theme-based distributions. So if you know, on Instagram and on X, there are these pages that will chop up these clips from multiple platforms, multiple podcasts, and post them on their page, and they'll tag us as a collaborator. So this is one example. We give them the clip, we give them the caption, right? And they tag our partner podcasts as a sort of in the post, which again funnels followers, funnels more mind share around the brand. And that's been significant in growing some of our recent podcasts. There's also the pre-production front where we do the guest research.
A little lengthy, but I don't have much feedback here, maybe because I'm a little too involved. We have rehearsed this 1,000 times. We've said this on sales calls 1,000 times. So it's pretty standard for us to go through this. But if you feel like there's any room where we could improve, please leave a comment and let me know what you think over here could have been better. I know it can be faster, but yeah.
We do cheat sheets, the A/B testing of titles, thumbnails, and some of the other stuff like the boilerplate stuff, which is the video editing.
Over here, we could have elaborated on cheat sheet. Like, what on earth does a cheat sheet even mean? This refers to creating a package for the guests themselves to post assets from the podcast.
Audio engineering, as we mentioned in the audit. Do you have any? Yeah.
So are you guys do the editing or just do the once you? I mean, how can you walk us through, let's say, what you can do for us in general, what would be your scope?
Thumbnail. I think this thumbnail is a bit too crowded and it goes against some of the basic design principles that we like to follow. Not to sound provocative, but if you look at Mr. Beast, right,
So over here, this is where we went a little wrong. Definitely can improve here. The prospect asked about the scope of services, and instead of exactly giving him, hey, so here's what we cover end to end, and like letting them talk more, we ended up going into, like a little bit critical on their current podcast, which I don't think is the best way to go about this. We ended up commenting on the thumbnail, etc. This could have been a lot more tasteful.
He literally says 50% of the YouTube game is title and thumbnail. If you go wrong there...
We're still trying to sell here, which is not what you need to do. He just asked for scope of services and what we could do for them. We only ended up focusing on what we can do for them instead of his original question, like, so what do you guys do? Do you also do the production?
There's no coming back from it. So I think first thing I'll change is the thumbnail and the title, which is something that we A/B test extensively. For every episode, we test 30 to 40 different variations internally before the episode goes live. And then some of the copy could use work as for the episode edit. Again, I saw there were a lot of abrupt cuts which weren't very clean. So the editorial itself could use some work. Adding one of those animated trailers that I showed, I think could be another important catalyst. Then another thing we do is add inserts. So, for example, in this part, I was rewatching this part.
I don't think he needs to know all of this personally. We got the sales, so well done. But I don't think this was needed. Like, again, talking about inserts, we're too technical already. I don't think we need to mention this.
Talking about, her critique of Anthropic and all of that. I think maybe if we add inserts, so as in like screenshots to show exactly some of her writing, which gives the viewer more context, right? Like you might know what her thoughts on Anthropic are, the viewers won't. And if they don't, they'll lack context and that will skyrocket drop-off rates, which in turn will obviously hurt engagement and total viewership. The next thing I would say is just, again, posting video to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, such platforms. The other side of it would be, I think, things we mentioned in the audit, like LinkedIn, Instagram, and getting the guests to repost, leveraging their following.
But in terms of shorts and preparing...
Yeah, way too long. I feel like we should have made that way shorter.
Platforms and how many shorts you would do and for broadcast and songs you would distribute it to.
Right. So we aim to do 3 shorts every episode. Now we'd like to do horizontal cuts for LinkedIn and X, simply because we've seen those convert better. And we do vertical cuts for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram. And we also do the horizontals for Blue Sky and Threads. So that's for the short form piece of it. Now these shorts would be animated. So if you just want to like drop an example in the chat. So these would be animated shorts with the editing, with the captions, typography, and we also do ghostwriting to go along with it. So we'd have someone come in, write in your voice, write in the brand's voice.
Definitely need to simplify. Thank God I'm actually making this YouTube video and finding out that our product pitch is way too long.
Voice. So, yeah.
And if we implement all of this, like say have shorts, animation inside the video, what do you think realistically, what kind of effect what kind of impact it could be on views, subscribers? For this particular video, I'm just curious to just get a feel from objectively.
It is, first of all, very difficult to give exact view numbers because, there's obviously social media and the algorithms work in their own ways. Because of the fact that it already got 1.2K views in 3 days, I think it would be fair to assume that, Rihan, what do you think? I don't want to give out any wild numbers here, but we have seen it 2 to 3x more. I would say at least on the base number of views, because there are some low-hanging fruits that we could easily correct. But then again, like 80% of podcasting, not to sell against ourselves, is mainly guest quality and the conversation quality, and not necessarily the additional 20%. I would consider us like the last mile. of distribution, and we'll do as much as we can to amplify the core of the podcast itself. And
but from your professional point of view, in terms of these guests and conversation and production or whatever quality, what's your assessment? You can tell me brutal truth. It's okay.
Be very careful giving out numbers. This is why I hate giving out numbers. I hate giving out multipliers like, hey, what do we think we can come in and do? Because then that's what they're anchored around. That's what results they're going to expect and hold you to it, right? So when it comes to podcast views or any social media views, you can't promise them unless it's a product like clipping, right? On clipping, we can promise views. That's fine. On this, however, on like podcast views, it's so difficult to like accurately tell them like, yes, I think we can get you XYZ views. And if you do end up doing that, that honestly seems a little scammy, because it's like, how on earth are you actually going to get so many views? That seems impossible. What are you going to do? Right? So be realistic and tell them that, look, I don't think like we can do, like we can't give you a number, but this is what we can do.
I'm fit to the
prospect was, however, insistent on numbers. So, you know, I put Vihan on the spot.
Continue. Real feedback.
I don't want to try and pinpoint a number, which would make my and Subha's job harder. But I think the first goal should be to get up to some of the numbers that she's averaged on the other podcast appearances she's made. So Karen's been on Hard Folk. I think she's been on Scaling Dev. And she roughly averages, I think the calculation we did internally was 7,500 views an episode. So that would be the first benchmark, right? How do we get up to averaging her on having like the same views, same engagement as her other podcasts, right? Because obviously that incentivizes her to want to repost. No one wants to go on a podcast and get a few hundred views. So
now what we do whenever we have whenever we want to give out numbers, we try to make it relative. So this guest has been on other podcasts before. How many views has this guest gotten on other podcasts? And then we try to give a number according to that.
And we do everything we can in terms of the distribution. There's also inorganics that we do, very, very hyper-targeted inorganics to reach viewers of other top tech podcasts, top business podcasts, like get up to that 7,500 views benchmark.
7,500. That's
see, we said all of this shit, but the moment you give out a number, this is all the person's gonna hear. Oh, so that many views. Great.
The target, the potential target you think it's feasible for this episode.
I don't think we should have even given out a number in full transparency right now when we look at it. Right, there's no point in giving out numbers. Just
depends on the guest. Depends on each guest, right? So the baseline for each guest, because let's say you get Mark Zuckerberg on, now 7.5K would be a little unconditional. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And okay, let's talk numbers. What's your guys? How do you guys charge, and what's your pricing model, and help us to understand things.
Before jumping into pricing, so now he's talking about pricing, which is, you know, very well due. We're towards the end of the call. We're already over time. Now, I should have also said, like, it's better to pitch them around distribution and views. I mean, sorry, time saved instead of views, right? Which, you know, giving out a number is not the best. We should have told them, like, hey, you know, what we can do is make sure that you're hands off and do as much distribution as possible instead of giving a number.
Sure thing.
On to pricing.
So we have a fixed retainer, and then we have a per episode variable cost. The fixed retainer is $6,000 a month, and then we have 2.5K per episode for up to 2 episodes. Then for the next 2 episodes, from episode 2 to 4, it drops to 2K because we get some economies of scale. And we have a minimum contract term of 6 months.
I should have not paused between the minimum contract term.
If we have 4 episodes per month, how much is it?
It will be around 15K.
15,000 years.
I did some quick maths in my head. I should not have said around like a fucking dumbass.
Correct.
Okay. And how flexible you on this number? I understand that because normally you would also do all the production, editing, and filming, right?
That makes
considering
sense.
That you don't need to do this part.
This does consider
or even finding guests
production involved, right? So we can go back and have a look at our pricing, because our pricing is pretty standardized across clients. But if we're not going for, let's say, the pre-production arm, which is guest booking or any of the guest research, we could have a little bit of flexibility and obviously remove that from the scope and reduce pricing there. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry, I mean, no, I'm a little bit of a nervous state.
Yeah, I think, I know you guys are a little...
So again, what just happened there, talk about your pricing. And then once you give your pricing, try to stay quiet, try to make them ask questions, be confident in the way you give pricing. Then they asked if we have any flexibility. Rule of thumb, even if you do have flexibility and you're making good margin, you don't immediately say, yeah, maybe we can go down to 12K. For what? Why are you going to go back? Why are you going to negotiate against yourself? There are two ways to go about it. Ask them like, okay, why don't you tell us like what is a feasible budget for you guys to work under? And maybe, if it's close enough, we can see what we can do to make it work. Or otherwise, if, the worlds are too far apart, we're always happy to send best practices or recommend other contemporary agencies. That's what you say. Now, he was talking about how he doesn't need the pre-production bit. So we're like, yeah, if we remove that bit, maybe we can, be a little bit flexible on the price and reduce it by a little, but not too much. You got to hold your frame and stick to your original pricing, because why are you going to negotiate against yourself?
Are located in India now, so the time zone would be pretty similar to Hong Kong, right?
The team is fully global. So we have people so there'll be people from all geographies collaborating on this project if we were to work together.
Gotcha. And what is the typical turnaround time? For example, we recorded the podcast and then we're able to cut it ourselves first. Then with all the added steps, how long would it take to launch a podcast video?
It would take 1 week for like full end-to-end thing after we've recorded a podcast. Now we can obviously do things faster, but it just stretches out the creative team. However, if there's one episode that we really want out in 3 days, we can make that happen. And to answer your previous question, Melody, it depends on the project managers we assign. And we treat each podcast as like a mini startup of its own, because each podcast is so different from each other, even though they're like the interview format, it's a project. And our project managers are limited to 2 podcasts at a time, and they're full time. So that's another reason why we have like that fixed cost. And we could assign a project manager that is close to the Hong Kong time zone. So it just makes things a lot easier for you guys.
Sounds good. I think then we'll wait for your rates, since we do have like a more special kind of deal where we record our own podcasts, and then maybe we need help with like the after effects of making the trailer and the 3 Instagram reels or short form content in general. I think those would be the main things. Anything else?
Yeah, basically everything related to marketing, distribution of this. Yeah. But yeah, we can take care of the first part, which is actual podcast. Yeah, but in short, what you guys do better than anyone else? What's your special thing where you are excelling and different from everyone else?
Great question to close it off. He's like, okay, well, these guys are a little expensive. They just did more recapping or whatever. And now he's like, okay, so what are you guys best at? This is like a shit test in a way. Chick sort of throw some random ass question at you one day and they're like, let's see if they're worth it. This is like that, like a random question towards the end. You gotta ace this one. If you over-explain yourself, you'll come across as insecure.
One word: distribution. And I think we've built out our own little moats of distribution. Everyone can produce a podcast. That is commoditized in a way. All agencies can make podcasts. There are 1,000 short-form editors, but I don't think anyone combines all of these in a way that amplifies distribution the same way we do.
Okay. Honestly, my previous experience with agencies was not great.
What the fuck are you guys doing? Why are people having shittier experiences with agencies? Come on, guys.
We prefer. I mean, if someone gets the topic, if someone leaves us with us in the content, not using it, just like template stuff, and that doesn't really help much. just a waste of time and money for everyone.
We should not have interrupted here, but it's fine now.
I'm not trying to hard sell, but I think that's the one advantage with us, which is like we only operate in this niche, right? Which is VCs and tech companies.
This is basically us making them, yes, we understand your world. Don't worry about it.
We don't want to operate in another niche because I feel like even our clippers right now, they've gone ahead and gotten like computer science level knowledge of clipping and of the subjects that they're working on. So that's been our mode, and that's why we're able to get the results we do. As for next steps, I think what would be best is we'll share a recording of this call along with an itemized breakdown of the exact list of services that we feel like would be tailored to your guys' podcast and pricing for the same. And then I think it might also make sense for us to chat again this time next week, if that works. And
shouldn't have asked this time next week if that works. There's a concept called implied compliance, right? So we should already assume that yes, they will want to chat next week. So we should be like, I'm going to send us a calendar invite for next week, same time, and yeah.
And then once you've had a chance to discuss internally, hopefully we'll have more to talk about.
Sure, let's do that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sure thing.
Thank you for bothering. Nice to meet you.
Sure.
And,
Nice to meet you.
thank you, brother.
Thank you.
And that was the end of the sales call. Moving on to closing negotiation. After the really fun sales call, after the call, what Vihan sent to them was thanks for the great chat, sharing a recording of our call because we do have Fireflies, which is an AI assistant, join the call every time, so we share a recording. We're excited, and then we also attach our portfolio of work for clients such as XYZ. So we made these little PDFs of our work for different clients, which just helps with professionalism and for them to see our work for other people, right? Talking about professionalism, is my caller fine? Yeah, I'm good. So then we go on to break down our pricing. We cover all the deliverables in post-production, growth, and then admin. You can have a look at what we're doing over here. We also ensure that we cap the budget of promotional ad campaigns at 1,500 over here, and this can later be used as a bargaining chip. If they want to reduce price, we can always take budget down from there, right? And then given that for the podcast, we're not doing pre-production, we can reduce the base to $5,500 a month and $2,300 per episode for up to 2 episodes, and then after that goes down to 2K, right? And then yeah, so that's all. And then we shared calendar invites for the same time next week, and we're looking forward to chat more then. Correct? Going forward now, they reply saying, hi Vihan and Subha, thanks for the detailed breakdown, etc. And a few more points that they wanted to clarify. Feel free to pause and go through all of this shit. Now, pricing adjustment. If we can agree on a 20% discount, making the cost $3,120, we'd like to proceed with the 2 episodes. Now, what this came off as is that they're looking to reduce the pricing, or they didn't understand our pricing well. I don't think they understood that we have a base fee and all that shit. So they're a little bit confused, right? And then over here on timeline, they're like, we need to publish the first draft of this episode by Thursday next week. So tomorrow they want to finalize everything instead of waiting. And when a prospect is trying to rush, it's usually a red flag. You got to slow them down. Then we're excited about the synergy and would like to discuss partnering further. To clarify your doubts, so Vihan goes full on, right? The base around the pricing will, irrespective of episodes every month, will remain at 5,500. So they were under an incorrect impression of our pricing, right? He goes on. This was like a 2-page email, bro. Look at this shit. And then pricing adjustment. We also have a minimum contract term of 6 months, which is something that I don't think they were weighing. And then timeline, we could start next week, but strongly recommend starting the week of 8/25. Okay. This strong recommendation is very ideal. Then, thank you for the detailed breakdown. This helps clarify the questions. I just want to reconfirm the cost structure. If we handle the full podcast editing, this much, with the base, and if for 4 episodes, this much, 12,700 or 14,100. Then Vihan says, confirming we're aligned on the podcast, on the cost structure. I'm very excited to chat more. Let me know if this time works. They say, thank you for the confirmation. If there's flexibility to revise revisit the pricing and explore a significantly lower rate, we'd be happy to meet tomorrow. But at the current rate, it's going to be difficult to justify the investment. Now we come back with the lowest pricing that we could potentially do, which is 3.5k as a base, 2k for the first and second, 1.5k for the third and fourth. And to justify this, the 1,500 that we spend on inorganics will be reduced to 750. And we also, I believe, ended up reducing the shorts from 3 to 2, right? So whenever you're giving a discount, ensure that you take something away from them as well. This is the best we can offer. Let me know if it makes sense to do a call. So, basically throwing our arms back and be like, okay, this is the least up to you, right? And then thank you for, just to reconfirm, the adjusted cost would be this. Our CEO would be available for a call today at 2 p.m. in 5 minutes. This is why I say speed. Speed is very, very important, okay? Then after that, I quickly reply in like 5 minutes being like, hey, thanks for your mail. I'm available for a call now. And I send the link so that they did end up joining the second call. On the second call, he was basically asking us for a trial month, right? Okay, fine, we'll do it at the cost, but at that cost, we'll need a trial month. And we're like, if you want a trial, cost goes up. So then if we were to consider doing that 1 month trial, right, we basically increase our pricing again. We're like, you want to do the trial, full disclosure, we're excited, but we cannot do any more price reductions for this after the trial run. So even after the trial is over, we stay at this increased pricing if they want to do the trial in the first place. So thanks for detailed. We'll take some time to review. This is 15th August. They then come back to us 28th of August because we didn't follow up. Oftentimes when prospects ask for discounts, etc., we show them that we're not that interested anyway, right? This is what kind of gives you like that impression of professionalism and boutiqueness, right? So yeah, we didn't follow up. And then they came back to us on the 20th of August saying that they would be excited. And then I talk about the next step is to review and get the SLA signed. Once that's in place, we'll share a Slack Connect invite. So then we also mentioned that the pricing reflects what was agreed for the 1 month trial. There's a 45-day break clause, which means if you wish to terminate, notice must be given by the 31st day. This effectively provides for a 1 month trial, after which the contract rolls into our standard 6-month minimum term, right? Please let me know if you ever had a chance to review the SLA, etc. And, I'll share it via signatures. That is it. They signed on the 1st of September. Right, they signed, and then we're waiting for our own signature. And then over here you can see the payment screenshots sent from their bank to ours. That's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found some value in this. Let me know if there are enough of you who want to watch what our SLA, what our contract looks like, because I think it's too complex. It's too much info. Do you even need this shit? I don't know, man. So if you benefit from these, please let me know so that I make this into a proper series and show you a lot more of our client closes. It's super fun for me to make these and it takes me very little time because I don't have to script or anything. So I love making these kinds of videos and I want to do them more regularly. And I hope that you find some value. If you have any feedback from me, let me know. Otherwise, subscribe if you want to work at Atomik Growth. First link in the bio. If you want to become a clipper, clip some of our podcast shows and make your first dollar online. Even if you're, in school or something, it's the easiest way for you to make money online. Apply to become a clipper. The link is also in the description, and see you next time. Bye.